Well, nice to see you. I think it's so cool that we do one show and meet for about 30 minutes and are getting to do this now. So thanks for doing this with me.
Absolutely. I love just like connecting with other musicians and, it was awesome to meet you and hear you. So happy to be here.
Yeah, you go on tour a lot. Your project is called Fox+Bones, and it's with your partner, Scott.
Yes.
And how did that all come about? Was it the relationship first? Was it the project first?
So they actually kind of happened at the same time. It started with, like Scott likes to say, some light stalking. He and I were both in other bands in Portland. And so we'd kind of heard about each other, and he'd been kind of following my Facebook and being like, I'm kind of interested. I wonder how I can make an introduction without being creepy. Mm-hmm. And so he ended up coming to one of my shows. He was good friends with my manager at the time. And my manager invited him to the show, and Scott was like, all right, this is my in. So he showed up at one of my shows, and we kind of started talking about, writing and the writing process. And and he was like, do you want to play, or would you ever want to write a song together? And I'd never co-written. So I was like, sure, that sounds great. And the next day he sent me a song idea over Facebook Messenger, and I sent him some lyrics back, and a couple of days later we met up and finished the song. And but it was also like a first date.
What song really was that? Would we know what song?
It's called Bones. It's from our very first album, and it's a piano song, and we don't usually travel with the piano, so we don't play it as often anymore. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely out in the world and Spotify, and we did a music video for it when we were in Europe that's up on YouTube, so it's around.
That's a really interesting way to start a project and a relationship. Yeah. I can only imagine, first of all, it's kind of cool because there's marks in your history marked by songs, right. You have these milestones that you can remember because of the phases in your life with the music and the catalog that you've created. That's so unique and so cool. How much of what you were experiencing in your relationship went into the music you were creating?
Surprisingly, not that much. I mean, we kind of have always had this idea of our songwriting being a tool for manifestation. So we almost in a way write about the world we want to see, the relationship we want to have. In that case, when we first started, both he and I had written plenty of songs about our own experience. And so we were toying with the idea of, kind of creating characters, and Fox+Bones were these Bonnie and Clyde characters that we were okay, let's write their adventure. Let's write their story. And while we took some creative liberties with that, the essence of the story was that, these two kind of down and out characters meet each other and decide to leave their hometown and kind of make an unconventional living. For them, it was through thieving and such. But for us, that kind of is what happened. Once we met, we were both kind of doing music, but mostly from home. And once we met, we kind of started living the dream, and we decided let's go on the road. Let's, make a real play at this. And so we kind of realized that through that fictional songwriting, we had manifested our dream. And so we've kind of continued on that path with all the music we've written ever since. It's okay, not only what are we feeling about what's happening currently, but what do we want to see? And our next album is going to be very much more about what we want to see in the world. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think I've experienced both. I'm an independent artist, and I've had a boyfriend before, before you met me, but in the past while I was pursuing my career. And there's really something cool about putting your heads together on a project with someone that you care about. Because I think in this industry, there's a lot of, for me, I always feel a lot of stress and pressure and kind of tension when you're trying to hire people or get people to believe in you, to help you out. It always kind of feels shady in a way. And people don't really care. And it's when you find someone that really cares about you, but then also, of course, your project along with that, or what you guys create together along with that. It's a really powerful thing, and things start happening, like things start manifesting, like you're saying. Was it tour right away? Is that kind of what you're implying? You were like, book the shows once we got the songs?
A little bit. So kind of what happened was, we were mostly still playing in our own bands. And then every once in a while, like I'd bring him on the stage for a song, or he'd bring me on the stage for a song. And we started establishing that like, this is our new project. We gave it a name. We started all the social media. And then Scott, so he was in an 8-piece rock band before us. And he had contacts with a booking agent that sends, he started with just Portland bands, but now he does just US bands in general, sending them to Europe. And they'd always talked about Scott's band going, but there was just no way to get 8 guys financially on board for that. Yeah. And so as soon as we had our first song and music video, he sent it to the booking agent and was just like, hey, here's a project I'm doing now. We just started it, but I think it might be a better fit for Europe. And the guy got back to us and was like, I love it. Let's do it. So we had literally one song and we met with a booking agent, and he planned our first tour. It was like 9 months after we met. So our first tour was like in Europe, which was crazy.
Yeah. And you're still like falling in love and getting to know each other at this time. It's like
full honeymoon stage. Yeah.
That is so cool. Do you think that made your relationship, like it forced it to go deeper quicker? Like, did you really have to get to know each other? Because when you're traveling, like that's the best way to know if you hate someone or not.
It is the best way. I've always said that. And I definitely think it was. I mean, I think we had been fighting a little bit before that, but Europe was the first time we like had real fights. And it was like, oh yeah, this is a thing. And we already were both like really deep people. So we jumped in really fast and really hard. Yeah. And I guess really honestly, the shared vision of our lives and our music has kept us going through like some of the harder times. Yeah. Because, and I truly believe that about relationships is if you have this like shared passion and shared goal, then it's more important than all the little petty fights that could potentially break you up. And so I just feel like we're working to something bigger. And, because of that, we've definitely had to work hard as a couple to make it work. It's hard being like with somebody 24/7 and your whole, your career is wrapped up in them as well as your personal life. And so, but I think it's really worth it if you can push through all the craziness, and we've definitely found that it's worth it.
No, that's amazing. And props to you. Seriously, like not everybody can do it. And when you can't do it, this business can be a lonely place. So that you've got that is, I'm really happy for y'all. I'm happy to hear that.
That's nice. Yeah.
Oh, I lost what I was going to say. I forgot. I don't remember.
It'll come back to you at a random time.
Yeah. So you're traveling, you're touring. Are you putting music out at this time as well? Oh, I know what I was going to ask you.
All right.
Yay. Scratch that. I was going to ask, with traveling and you guys being so close, and I'm sure you guys live together at home too, do you find ways to feel independent, or do you kind of not need that and you kind of feel independent within your relationship already?
Oh, that is a huge talking point for us. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, this is like probably one of the biggest things we've worked on, because Scott really is like a homebody, and he can get into the sync of tour, but for him, he needs like the whole day to just like relax, watch TV, play on his computer, and then play a show. Like it's hard for him. Like he doesn't want to go sightseeing. He doesn't really like care about any of that. Whereas I like love traveling, and I love seeing different cultures, and I love just like being immersed in where I'm at. And so I've always really enjoyed like even in the US, even if we're like going 2 hours to the Oregon coast, I'm like, I want to do coast stuff. Like I want to go out for a dinner, and I want to like, go out to the beach and shop and like do all these things. And so at first I was like really like hurt by his lack of wanting to do that. And I was questioning a lot, like, is this like this person like if he doesn't want to travel, like that's a huge thing that we don't have in common. And yet he does want to travel because it's like important to his music. And over time I've just kind of like accepted that like that's a solo activity for me. And
that's great.
And because of that, he joins me more often when he doesn't feel pressured to do it. So when he knows that I'm okay with him staying home, he's more likely to like,
ladies. Yes.
This is like honestly the best relationship advice overall I could give is
seriously
like let it go, because the more you let it go, everything like
they'll come to you.
Come to you.
Yeah.
Because they just don't want to feel pressure. Advice. They don't want you they don't want to feel like you're their mom. They already have one of those. So it's like, they just want to know that you accept them for who they are and what they want to do. And then also be independent enough to be like, hey, I don't need to sit here with you. You don't need to come with me. I'll be fine. I've traveled alone plenty. And so now it's kind of this compromise where like, if we have a couple days off, I can get him to do something with me. And if I want to do something before a show, then I just go on my own.
No, that's great though. I think that's awesome because the tour that you met me on, I had my friend there in Seattle. He lives in Seattle, but I travel alone. And for that whole thing, I was just by myself. And I honestly loved just on my own terms. I get up at my own time. I can go out and do something. Or if I just want to stay in the hotel, I can just like do nothing all day. But I just as a woman, I love that feeling of being like free and independent and like going out into the world that I don't know. Like I went to places I had not been. And that's cool that you still get to experience that, because when I met you guys, I was like, oh boy, I bet they're together all the freaking time. You got to find those times that you're alone.
Yeah. In fact, on our last European tour, we had like 4 days off all in a row. And I just got it in my mind. I was like, I want to go to Spain. I've never been to Spain. I want to go to Mallorca. I literally just like looked on this flight website, found the cheapest flight, and literally flew in for like not even 48 hours. It was like,
oh my gosh,
got there late at night, had a whole day, left early in the morning. And I just like, I asked him if he wanted to come, but I knew the answer would be no. So he literally sat in a hotel room for 3 days playing on his computer and like pretty much not leaving except for food. And I like walked around the island of Mallorca by myself, which, looking back, I'm like, now that I know that place, I would love to go there with friends or, with him. Yeah. There was a lot to do, but it seemed like a place to share with somebody. Mm-hmm. But I also just did it because I was like, and it felt so good, even the just getting on the plane and finding my hotel and like doing all that kind of stuff. It's just so empowering.
Yeah.
And then having complete freedom on what you do when you get there. Like I didn't have to be like, oh, do you want to eat this? Or compromise on anything. You just do it.
Yeah. Do you find eating to be an issue on tour? I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, especially because I have I've had like very strict dietary restrictions off and on. And so it's usually either I go off the diet and just feel horrible the whole time, or I like try really hard to stick to the diet, but I'm like the most annoying person because I have to ask a million questions. So that part is a little bit hard for me.
What kind of restrictive diets are you talking about?
So like, for example, through this last tour, I've just had pretty like bad digestive issues since I was like 19. Yeah. And I've been diagnosed with all these different things. I mean, it's been like Candida or SIBO or IBS or whatever. And there's like a different diet that goes along with each one. Yeah. And so I do like, in general, I like try to avoid gluten and dairy and like too much sugar. Mm-hmm. Like if I stay away from those 3 things and then like anything too like
sugar's
oily or whatever.
The killer, man. Like that's in freaking everything.
It's in everything, and it is very addictive. Like once you start getting the habit of like having dessert every night, like even if it's like vegan, gluten-free, there's still so much sugar in it. So I kind of fall into that trap. And then there's the like, you want to treat yourself after a show, and I try to stay away from drinking every night on tour. And so sometimes I'm like, well, I should deserve to have this instead. And it's definitely a hard thing because you kind of want comfort food when you're like uprooted and ungrounded all the time.
Yeah,
So
but then it'll come back to bite you, and
yeah.
you're either in tons of pain during the show or you can't do fun stuff later. I'm vegan, and
Okay.
I've always been, I would say I lean balanced slash junk food vegan vibes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I was on tour, my thing was in every single city I went to, I looked up vegan donuts. Like I wanted to try all the vegan donuts everywhere.
Yes.
And just recently this year, I started having some more health issues. I don't know if it was quarantine or stress or whatever, but I decided to finally eliminate sugar because I realized how much I was actually eating. And it's a hard thing to do.
Yes.
I miss my vegan donuts, but I do feel better. I think it's probably one of the worst things people can eat.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's so readily available for any dietary restriction. But, I've found I work a lot at home when I'm at home and I like cook my own stuff. I work a lot with like stevia and xylitol.
Me too.
And I find that does it for me.
Oh yeah, no, it's just you just need the
really
sweet.
yeah.
I just made like last night. Those they're kind of trendy. The microwave mug cakes or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? You like put the ingredients.
Oh yeah, I made.
Yes, and then you just put it in the microwave, and somehow it's like magically delicious.
Yeah,
but I put stevia in that, and it's always good for me. And my coffees too. Like I need my coffee sweet, and it doesn't bother me, so that's good. And then that means you don't drink as well. You mentioned that because your body, turns that into sugar too.
Yeah, definitely. It's a whole process. And at the beginning of quarantine, I was like being really strict with my diet. And then when summer hit, it was like, I want to do things. I want to go out and have drinks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like right now kind of trying to get back to it. But
is there anything with the drinking besides that it's not very good for you? Like, do you find it affects your voice if you drink on tour or like...
I think it's just that
not really
multiple nights of drinking in a row, even if I have like one or two drinks, I just don't feel as energetic during the day. I have a hard time waking up. I like don't feel as happy. And so, I'd like actually prefer to have like a big party night and then not drink for another 2 or 3 weeks, like I'm not a glass of wine with dinner person. And so, and on tour, especially, it's easy to have every night be a party night, and it's easy to like want to celebrate every night. And I've just had to like tell myself that like, this isn't how we do this. This is not the choice.
Is Scott like that? I kind of
pick and choose. Like, what's that?
Is Scott like that?
Scott is an every night. Yeah. He's a like, cause he's so much more introverted than me too, that it really helps him to have a couple drinks before a show to like loosen up and like, feel free to like talk to people and be silly and stuff. And it makes it easier for me too, but I kind of like just value my liver, and I just don't want to do that to myself every night. What's that?
Respect the liver. It's a new hashtag movement. Are we having a little bit of connection issues?
Respect the liver. I know. It does a lot of work. I think we might, it's just a lag in a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Are you on Wi-Fi?
I am, and I'm probably in the worst room for my Wi-Fi. So I'm just going to find another spot.
Yeah. Cause I'm Ethernet and I just checked my connection. So.
Okay. Yeah. It's usually that room. I was trying to find a private spot, but that room usually isn't so good.
No, you're good.
This seems to be working better.
Okay.
So getting a better lit too.
So can I ask you what state you reside?
Yes, currently we're in Washington, but I tell people Portland, Oregon, because it's right across the river from Oregon. So
okay, and how familiar are you with the things going down there? Are you away from? Oh yeah,
that? We're very, very familiar. Haven't been down there a lot. Okay. Like I've been to one protest. It was on the other side of the river, so it was really chill, and there was nothing crazy happening at all. There was the cops didn't even show up. It was a huge protest, but the cops weren't even there. So
when
it was great.
Was this?
That was, I think, like at the beginning of June.
Okay.
Or July. It was like, you know, maybe a month into the every night protests.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's two reasons that I haven't continued to go. And one is because we live with my parents. And so, you know, even though everyone at the protest is really good about wearing masks, they haven't been super comfortable with us like being in that big of a group of people, which is fair. And then now it was at the point for a while where it was like, you couldn't go unless you had like a helmet and a gas mask and like body armor, because people are getting really, really injured. And so it's not a place you can just show up and be like, I'm protesting now. You kind of have to like prepare. And I'm like, I don't have any of that stuff. And so I've been kind of supporting from the sidelines, and I have a lot of friends who have gotten involved and gone down there. And so they've been taking live videos and, you know, taking photos, and like, it's good to get my news from the ground level of what's actually happening rather than from the media, because it's being so misconstrued.
Amen. Amen. I don't have many friends in the hotspots, so it's nice to hear that it is being misconstrued, because that's, you know, it's starting to leak. You know, people are starting to talk about it, and there are some more, you know, real sources on what's really happening. But I was living with my parents when this all first happened. I had like a month transition. I moved out of LA. And for me, I decided I wanted to get away from it a little bit because of how violent it was getting and unsafe and everything. And I'm a single girl. Like, my family's only a couple hours away. I decided I wanted to be a little bit closer to them. And it's like, it was really the George Floyd thing that tipped me over. And it was just like, it broke my heart. And that we are still in such a barbaric place in humanity absolutely like throws a knife in my heart. And I wrote a song about it. And then like, I was like depressed, and I was having all this existential crises over it. Like, I want to make a difference in this world, but if we're starting here, like freaking below the basement, how am I supposed to bring any good into the world? If like am I even going to be able to be received? Is my music even going to matter when this is happening over here? And it really hurt me. And stepping away from LA, I think has helped me kind of getting back with my family. But were you feeling any of those things when that? I mean, it's still happening.
Oh, well, it really affected me. You know, it's interesting because we were actually in California when a lot of this started, visiting Scott's family. And so
what part?
I was seeing a lot of it on the news, and they're in the Bay Area in Martinez. And I think the first riot in Portland was the night before we left. And so I like heard about it vaguely. And then that whole week, it just kind of kept escalating. And I think I was very confronted with like how little I actually had done, you know, like I have all these beliefs that I believe in equality, and I believe in, you know, people like being taken care of by other people. And I, you know, the allyship movement really like woke me up to be like, it's not enough to not be racist. You need to be like actively anti-racist. And I was like, oh man, that's a thing I haven't been doing. Like, that's just a thing that it definitely woke me up. And I really appreciate, you know, that this is all happening, because I think a lot of people like me who thought they were part of the cause are like actually getting, you know, kind of schooled on like, how can we actually help rather than just, you know, thinking about it. And, you know, and so my journey has been more like trying to read and listen to podcasts and just listen to Black voices. And that's something that I hadn't necessarily sought out before. And, you know, even that has kind of like spurred an interest in like, I've been watching more stuff about climate change and like eliminating waste and, you know, ways we can help the environment. Cause for me, it's not just about, you know, the Black community. Like, it is absolutely about them right now, but we're all like, the whole human population is in a bad place. And there's a lot, you know, there's still the immigration problems with the detention camps at the border. And there's all these things that are happening constantly all around us. And they're all important things. And it's easy for me, I got really overwhelmed because I was like, I need to do everything and I need to be like the savior. And it's like, no, you just first step is just to like educate yourself and, try to see what little actions you can do in your day-to-day life. And whether or not I actually do something every single day is one thing, but I feel like I'm doing more than I ever had before. But I do agree that, that was my turning point too, to where I was like, I need to be actively involved in this constantly. And I need to pay attention. One of the big things, like when we had our state gubernatorial election, was the first time I ever voted in that. Like I was always like, oh yeah, I'll vote for president, but like didn't think about how much local government really does matter.
I had the same awakening recently, and I pulled out, or I guess I Googled it, and actually saw who was running in my area. And it's like, you don't think about these things, but we're to that point. We've gotten to a breaking point where people are having to wake up to like, this stuff does matter. And voting and politics and everything, when you're in something like what we do, it kind of seems irrelevant. And it's like, I was very uneducated and anti-politics. Like I had no earthly idea what the freak was going on.
But I didn't want to know. I was like, I
didn't either.
It doesn't affect me.
I didn't either. And also as a musician, I don't want to talk about that stuff in front of my fans, like specifically.
You don't want to alienate people.
I don't want to. That's my whole thing, is like making everybody feel together. So who the heck am I to be like, this is how you should think, and if you don't, then you're not one of us. Like that's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do. But at the same time, like it can be overwhelming when you do realize that you need to educate yourself and think about these things. And we're very caring, empathetic people as creators. We want to help humanity. That's like the whole freaking thing. And we have a lot of influence. So I think that there's ways for us to communicate that in our music in a non-political way. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the world in general too. Like you even just get outside of America and
absolutely. Yeah.
It gets only worse. Believe it or not.
And I will tell you, from being like in Germany and like Denmark and Austria, these places, like listening to them and their politics and their, these are all these, Western countries, or even some of the non-Western countries, are having the same issues right now with the rise of fascism. Like it's happening everywhere. And we went on our first European tour like a couple days after Trump was elected. And so we thought the Germans were just going to hate us. And they were just fascinated because like Austria had just had a very similar election where the fascist guy almost won, but then they had to recount the votes. And thankfully when they recounted, it ended up being like the Green Party guy that won. But like France had a really tedious election. There was like a lot of that going around. And they were like, yeah, Trump's crazy, but it's not just America. Like, and even, being told like, we had a show in East Germany, which is for former Soviet control. And because of that, they were pretty disenfranchised and they didn't get the same privileges and benefits and stuff that West Germans had. And so they feel that disenfranchisement, and that has turned into a lot of white supremacy and a lot of like flying the Nazi flag is super illegal there, but they fly the Norwegian flag, and that's like their new symbol of white supremacy now. And so it's like, it's still happening everywhere.
See, I haven't even heard about that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, as far as, specifically with the Black population in America, like that's a very specific issue that is, pretty specific to us. But there are these different forms of, just hate because of the color of someone's skin or where they came from, all over the world. And it's,
I actually learned, props to America a little bit. I actually learned that we weren't the first to have Black slaves, and we were the first to free them. So at least we're at the beginning of things, even though we were doing all the wrong stuff. At least I think at least what I heard, and I don't think I'm mistaken, I think we were the ones to start making the change. So hopefully we can start making the change now.
Yes, definitely. It's a lot, but it's important.
And I think too, for me, a perspective that helps me a lot and feeling like maybe I can make a difference is I do believe it all starts with one person. It really all starts with digging within inside ourselves. And you can't live your life based on what everybody else is doing, you know? And I think we all do have a truth and a purity to us deep down if you really look at us and you really, get to know yourself. And I think that's what I'm starting to take from all of this is waking up, and all of this with the outside stuff is away. But then once you are awake to it all, it just becomes information overload, and then you're paralyzed again. So
Right.
it's like you have to then go in and be like, okay, what work can I do? What do I have control of? And that you can put in music. That doesn't alienate anybody because we all
Right.
have our spirit to get in touch with. So
Exactly. And I do believe that like the macro reflects the micro. And so what we're experiencing within us, because we all have these like wars and battles and judgments and, there are two different sides within us as well. And the more that we can reconcile and let all those things become part of the whole, like the more we can serve the world in a really pure way. And I think, because we all have this inner battle is why there's all these external battles. I mean, it truly is like when people are hateful or they're going to yell at you on Facebook for your views or something. It's like, oh, you're experiencing like that triggered you, which means you're experiencing some like inner separation within you. And, it does make the most sense to me to each heal ourselves, and that naturally heals the world. And I do worry that some people aren't doing that work, but also it's not my place to like make anyone do their work. And I can only, the only person we can control is us. So,
yeah. And I do agree with that. I do worry about some of the trends that I see, especially in social media, where it's like, if you don't think exactly how I think, or you didn't say that quite right, or even like it was I thought it was a great thing that people were starting to post squares on their Instagrams and stuff in memory of George Floyd and this whole, beginning of this movement. And it had to go bad because everybody, it became a separator instead of, it was supposed to bring people together because everybody wanted to nitpick someone on, oh, well, you're covering up real information, or this doesn't do anything. You're not really doing anything. And although maybe those things are true, what does a freaking black square say about a person that you are now allowed to judge them? Like, I just saw it as such an opportunity to bring us together, and it didn't, and it made me kind of sad.
Yeah. And that was like the height of things too.
Yeah.
And I definitely got yelled at.
I did too. I had people DMing me and stuff. I'm like, whoa.
I will add that none of them were people of color. It was all other white people.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a kind of a trend in Portland, unfortunately.
I had both, but interesting. Yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, and it's what's even more interesting about the black square thing to me is that was started by the music industry.
Right.
So it was specifically a music industry blackout, and then everyone else started doing it. Which
I remember that.
Great. But it everyone's like, oh, I don't understand why people are like, everyone's doing these black squares. I was like, well, to be fair, it did start within one specific industry.
Well, it was supposed to be us not telling our stories and being silent on expressing and branding and like all the stuff that we do for ourselves, and like taking a moment of silence kind of in a way to bring attention to something else.
Exactly. And I kind of liked it because then I knew like which of my friends were like on board. Like it was kind of like a calling card of like knowing who is paying attention and who cares and who doesn't, And so I hate for it to be that either, but it was kind of nice to see like all these people I didn't know what their political beliefs were posting the square, and it's like, oh, I know where you stand on this.
It doesn't convey everything though, because I ended up not posting it because of how much controversy was going on around it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wait and see. I just decided to wait and see. And instead, I ended up writing a song called I Can't Breathe, and it was in memory of George Floyd. And it was my way of bringing attention to it. I had to kind of do it in my own way because I was like, God, if I start touching on these like touchy things. I don't know. I don't want to lose friends and fans. I'm trying to, but being silent too isn't the answer. So it was a tough time for me.
Yeah. And trust me, I have felt all of that.
Yes.
I have my rock band, I feel like my brand is very like political because I dress up like a superhero.
Oh, cool.
And my character is a superhero. So I like specifically take a very specific stance on things. But with Fox+Bones, it has always been, important to us to, we tour all through the Midwest and the South. And like, granted, we do seem to find these like amazing, like liberal pockets everywhere we go. But also I know we have fans that are Trump supporters and conservatives. And like, we want them to feel part of this. We don't want them to think that we're like, liberals that hate everyone that's not them. And we don't, we want to find other common ground, because I think finding that common ground with people on other things kind of opens them. Like if they already like you, they might be more willing to talk to you about your views without being hateful. And so yeah, it is a really interesting balance. But then even with our Instagram, I used to never post anything political. And now I do here and there, because I do want people to know that these things are important and they're important to us. And, I try not to alienate, but
I think what you said about people like just getting to know you and like you and not having it start political is a good thing. But the thing too is when I think I'm trying to get to the root of it, which is why I'm like thinking of my words properly, because I really do think that this is kind of the root of pretty much all the problems with people. And I think it has to do with, if we were more in touch with ourselves, like you were saying, if we didn't have little battles and separations within ourselves, we could see ourselves within people that are nothing like us.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're all human and we all have usually similar intentions and desires for how the world and how people are going to interact, and although views may be different, there's usually a root of like wanting to care for one another and do the right thing. So I think if we, I think it's really getting, oh, hi mom.
I'm on a podcast. That's my mom.
No problem. Hi mom. I got one of them too.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think I've been trying to find ways to explore that in my music more. What kind of music have you been writing lately with all of this being said?
It's funny that you ask, because we were supposed to record the rest of our album in May for a fall release. Mm-hmm. And that fall release was going to be right before we did a European tour and all that stuff. And then, it was in May and we're like, I don't know if a whole week in the studio is what people want to do. And we like to say that we're fear-based writers. So we had like 3 or 4 songs left for the album, but we only had written one of them. And so we kind of those last couple ones that we wrote before our studio dates were a little bit more, a little bit politically leaning. Scott and I wrote a song called Changing of the Guard, which is just kind of saying that like, not taking a specific political stance necessarily, but just saying that like things need to change. Like, there's, the old ways of doing things no longer work, but it's really upbeat and like dancey. And so it's very digestible. Mm-hmm. But then I also wrote like specifically a protest song. It's a little bit more of a ballad. And, just kind of acknowledging the people who are on the front lines doing this and just, saying like that we're not going to be silent until change is made. And so it did spark some stuff that's very positive musically that now has put our album, which is now not going to be coming out until next spring. But it kind of does put the album in this place of like, we're not fully saying like anything anti-Trump or anything specifically liberal, but we're saying these things of like change needs to happen and we can be the change, and inspiring people to, do that. And a lot of the undertones of a lot of our music is that like, is this, we're all human piece, and that we all come from the same place and we're all going to return to the same place. And, seeing that like divinity in each other is the only way to fix anything. So
there's going to be a nice new level of depth to this album.
Yeah.
Do we have a name?
We're still working on the title. It's been kind of hard to like find a title that encompasses exactly what we want this to say. So we're like toying with a couple different ones. Scott's had a lot of ideas that I have like shot down. So we're still working on it. I'm like, I'll know it when I hear it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, well, I really like this one. And so good thing we have time.
Yeah.
But I want it to be something that like touches on that and, you know, feels modern, but also classic. And so yeah. And
sonically, do you know which direction it's headed right now? Because you have a couple few. You have a few feels that like when I listen to your catalog, it's like, okay, this is the folk kind of more go lucky Fox+Bone, and then there's like the edgier, rockier, soulful, like we're gonna hit you where it hurts kind of gutsy stuff, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're definitely moving more in the like folk rock soul direction. However, like we started as like a very simple folk project with just piano and guitar and 2 vocals. And so every album will probably have something stripped down like that. And so we have a couple like very traditional like singer-songwriter folk songs, but a lot of the songs are rockin'. And like we have a 6-piece band now. We were supposed to be playing with our whole full band all summer. We had all these great like festivals booked and stuff, and that all did not happen. So we haven't been playing with the full band, but that's kind of my dream, is because I'm a performer first and foremost. And so when I'm with the full band, I'm like, I have my sequined outfit and fringe and I'm moving around. And
oh, I love that one. the dangly one. It's like fringe, but it's beads.
Yeah.
Oh my
gosh.
That's
my like go-to stage performance outfit
to die.
And it's just, that's like,
what is that? Is that thrifted or?
So it's 2 pieces. It's a bodysuit that's like lace on the top, and then like then it's like fringe. So it's a bodysuit with like fringe around the middle, and then the fringe hangs down. And then on top of that, it's like a sequined duster. So it's like down to the floor in the back and like long sleeves, but I can take it off.
Yeah.
And
is it a designer, or did you just find it somewhere at a costume shop?
I found the sequin duster on Nasty Gal and it was on sale. And I found the lace piece on Amazon, which like are 2 companies that I'm like morally against, because I'm like I'm into thrifting and sustainable fashion and eco fashion and all that kind of stuff.
I know I've broken a few of my rules this quarantine too, from just like, you know what, I'm going to order some things. Like I miss Goodwill, man. I miss Goodwill so much. That was the second thing on tour that I'd always Google. It was vegan donuts and the Goodwill. Yep.
I'm like, where is your vintage section? Because there's always in every city, there's like a section of the city that you can find all the best vintage stores. And I've gotten some amazing pieces like all over the world.
I always come home with more
my favorite thing to do.
With.
So I've had to kind of resort to, getting stuff here and there. I still try to avoid, because those 2 pieces I got like a year and a half ago before I was really serious about sustainable fashion. So I'm like claiming ignorance on that one, but
it's
I've gotten a lot of use out of them.
Yeah. No, but it's hard to be sustainable. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's tough when, at least for me, I don't want to spend a ton of money on one thing because I'm so evolving. Like I'm always changing, and it's like, I'm not that kind of person that's gonna buy a cardigan for $200 and have it for 10 years. Like,
right.
In 10 months, I'm going to be over that entire phase and never wear a cardigan again. So that's why thrifting has been the best for me. Because
absolutely.
I'll get over things and be okay with letting it go because, I got that off the rack at Goodwill for $5.99. So no big deal.
You're just recycling it back into the world.
Yes, I take it back to Goodwill. I cannot tell you how many things I bought at Goodwill that just I send back to Goodwill and they sell it again.
It's great. It totally works.
I think they were a little like overwhelmed for a while there, and they had to like stop taking things.
Oh, wow.
because of the quarantine. I
believe
think
it.
maybe it was the quarantine, but
Yeah, everyone's doing spring cleaning because they have all this time. So like, just take everything to Goodwill.
they closed in LA. They were like, we're not taking donations.
Actually, they might have closed here too for a while. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they must be open now. I bet everything seems to be open, but
Yeah, is everything pretty open there?
yeah, I think everything's just like open with regulation. So, I mean, everything except music venues, of course.
Yeah.
But like, as far as shopping, because we had a photo shoot for our album cover a couple weeks ago, and I needed to get Scott something. And so we had to like, go to the mall and like get stuff, and everything's open. A lot of places won't let you try stuff on, which is kind of annoying, but makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, a lot of places it's like, if you wear your mask and you distance from people in the store, they're kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, things didn't really, when cases started to rise, I don't really feel like things started to close down. I think they just stayed open with their regulations. So
Okay.
Kinda interesting.
So you were never on lockdown?
we were for like the first couple months, and then
Okay.
things started opening again in like beginning of June. We went
Okay.
into phase 2, and then things were better for a while, and then like mid-July it just like started spiking again. And so we had a couple shows canceled because of that, because there was a couple places in Washington specifically that had music,
Wow.
and they now are not allowed to. But
You know what I just heard? I don't know anything about this, but my friend literally right before I came on to talk with you sent me an article saying New York just banned ticketed shows.
oh wow,
I don't know
Interesting.
what that's all about, but a bunch of musicians were really outraged and like made this blog post, and I didn't fully read it, but it was just basically like, I don't know for what reasons, but the venues, I guess maybe it's not only venues, but it's like bars and restaurants and stuff too. They don't want the music to be the draw. I don't know. That's what that's what they said. They don't want the music to be the draw. So you can't have a paid show. Like you can't ask for a cover at the door there. I don't know what that's about, but I just heard that and I was like, great. Just make it all harder on us if it's not already hard enough after all of this.
That's so crazy. I'll have to like look into that a little bit, because
I know it might be coming other places. If it starts in
Yeah.
New York, usually other places follow. So
Jeez, we've been like, our saving grace has been like outdoor, like driveway concerts. So just playing at like private concerts is mostly what we've been doing. But yeah, once the fall hits in Portland, I mean, it gets cold. No one wants to be outside. So I'm really curious to see what we're going to do this fall.
have you thought of doing virtual shows?
Well, the virtual show thing, we did some of, and it seemed that when everyone was in very strict lockdown, it worked great. But once we, and for you all kind of always did virtual shows. Like Twitch was kind of where you were, like where most of your fans are, which I think was probably great for this, because you can just continue on what you already do. But for us, yeah, people like, tuned in pretty well to the first 2, and we got paid really well. And then after that, it like severely dropped off to the point where like, we're not sure if it's worth doing, because it's not bringing in anything.
Where were you streaming?
So we streamed on Facebook and YouTube, and we had like a professional like sound guy and video guy, and they did all our graphics, and it was very like well done. But we pay them a portion of our donations, and so and we're not set up to do it on our own necessarily, like with the right equipment. So so it's like every time we have them come out, they take a cut of our stuff, and it's worth it because they do a great job. But it's also like we didn't feel like we were paying ourselves or them enough.
Yeah.
And right now we're actually hosting a live stream series that just started last night. It's called Strings and Stories. And it'll be every Wednesday, I think, through the end of the year. At least for the next like couple months, it'll be every Wednesday. And it's folk-based. There's 2 acts on every week. And
Facebook and YouTube again?
yeah, Facebook and YouTube. That one also is on Twitch. The people that are running it, it's called Lime Live TV. So they're just at Lime Live TV, and they have the website and stuff. And so we stream through them, and we won't be playing as much, but we are just kind of, using that as a way to like lift up some of our other artist friends. And so yeah, I have a feeling that we may, over the winter go back to more live streaming. But this summer it's been like, it also seems like people in the Northwest get cooped up. There's 2 months of summer. Everyone wants to be outside. So they don't want to sit inside and watch music. They want to go out and do stuff. And so I think we ran into that a little bit, but that
Were
is
you
also,
streaming during the day as well?
we were kind of switching back and forth between like an early happy hour and then like a later thing. Because we have fans in Europe. We have fans on the East Coast. Like we could never please everyone with one time.
How
so
long
we're kind
were
of
you
switching
streaming
back and
for?
forth. Usually 2 hours.
Okay.
Because we were finding that after the first hour is when views really started to rise.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so we're kind of like, if we're going to do this, we just commit to the full 2 hours and, you know, really make a thing out of it. And we definitely found a lot of success by doing like giveaways. So like incentivizing people to donate by, you know, giving away t-shirts or whatever. And that really helped a lot. So,
which is a good point. And when you were mentioning playing shows again and potentially, I don't know what's happening in New York, but not getting paid as much for those, or doing these private shows where it's, you know, there's maybe not a cover. I think building a strong, lasting business is just having your hand in as many cookie jars as you can. And I think merch is a huge one. I think fans appreciate that and enjoy it. As one of the most memorable things, something that they can take home of you after the show. Yeah. Exactly. And you guys do that really well. I thought you guys were adorable. You had your little suitcase and you bring your shirts out, your little CDs out and everything. What do you make your merch through?
We have a couple different avenues. T-shirts we usually do through Custom Ink. I would prefer to use like a local t-shirt designer, but we haven't really had much luck with like, because we don't buy things in huge volumes. We like to like, for me, I'm super into fashion. So I don't want to sell the same shirt 2 years in a row. Like I want to have, you know, a shirt for summer, a shirt for winter. And that, you know, that's also good for people because every time we have a new shirt, they want to buy it.
Do you design everything too? I
do not. I wish I had design, like a design brain. I unfortunately do not, but so we've had some designs commissioned and so that's what we usually do for like clothing items. We usually go through Custom Ink. And then, we have like lighters, which we kind of make ourselves. We just like buy a big thing of Bic lighters on Amazon and we make the sticker and then wrap them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we've had koozies made and like I made lyric books, which I did design the lyric books on Canva basically. And we had them printed. So for those kind of like different like specialty items, I usually just find the place with the best price. But I mean,
I might have to ask you for your designer because I have some ideas on some things and I'm like wanting to start something new, like a new line again. But I think I want a second eye on it.
Yeah, definitely. So, I have we worked with multiple different people and they're all great. So I would be happy to send you those.
Thank you.
And I loved your merch. Your whole branding is so well done. I mean, your merch table was like super pro and everything matched and you had the iPad for the email list and, you know, just like the whole weirdo thing is so well branded and like so like a tribe that people can like get behind. And so definitely like props to you. We took a lot of notes when we saw your merch table.
Oh, you're sweet. I was taking notes. I was taking notes from yours. What are you talking about?
We all share our, share our like ideas.
Yes.
And, I've definitely gotten most of my ideas from other people's merch tables.
Yep. Me too. Yeah. My merch table was a hybrid of like a bunch of other things that I've seen and like random ideas. Like, I've actually, one of the string light thing, I actually got that idea from So Far Sounds.
Really?
Which we played their show. Yeah. This is just blew my freaking mind. I was like, they're geniuses. They literally, so if anybody doesn't know what So Far Sounds is, they're basically pop-up shows and they do like really stripped down, cool, vibey shows and in a random location every single time. So they'll get like a warehouse or like the back of a bar or like out in a park or like in someone's garage. Like So Far Sounds can be like anywhere. And literally all they do is they bring a sign and a rope of string lights. and it's a So Far sound show. And it could be like the grossest old factory or whatever. And it's a So Far show with freaking lights.
Super cute.
Yes. And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. Like I can wrap up some lights in my suitcase, string them out. And then look, I made a stage with the string lights. So that's where I got that from. Cause I thought that it's just amazing. It's so smart.
That's such a good idea. People just love lights.
Yeah.
Lights are like the easiest way to like up level anything.
Yes. And I got those battery ones too, because you can't always rely on, the plugs and stuff. But
yep, exactly.
But yeah, when you can, study other people's good ideas and like recognize, I get off on that stuff. I get off on like finding a brand that I like, or like discovering a new artist and being like, why do I like them? What is it? And you try to break it down and you realize there's really some smart components usually to it. And it's not just, oh, they're likable or, oh, they have good music. There's usually like some secret sauce each artist has,
Oh, absolutely. And, there's that whole saying, like the best artists steal. And like, as abrasive as that sounds, it really is like, no one's creating anything from scratch that's brand new. Like we're all influenced by all these different things all the time. And, I think the most important thing is that you can like take something that you saw someone else do and like make it your own in a way and like merge it with all the other things. And that makes something that's uniquely you. And so, I think it's one of the most important things about being an artist is to, just to be willing to be open to ideas that are better than yours and, figure out how to intermix that with all the other things you like to really create your own like personal brand.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie. I have come a long way with that. When I first started out, like when I first did my solo stuff, it was years before, and I had done a lot of other projects in between, but I had this, I was too green. Okay. I was too green and I had some heartbreaks in the industry that really, it jaded me, and I just felt like nothing was fair and everybody that got it didn't deserve it. They haven't been working hard. This isn't fair, and I would literally, I built a wall between me and all these potential good ideas if I had just opened my freaking eyes and loved and appreciated what someone else was doing. Like, I was so naive. And when I got over that and realized that even if there's an artist I don't like that is succeeding, I can learn from that. Like, I don't have to like their music. I don't have to like who they are. I don't have to like what they're about. But I can learn from how they're building and what they are doing to connect with people, because everybody's got something. And it's usually smart. If they're killing it, it's something smart. Yeah.
Yep, that's very true. And you're definitely not alone in that. I think every like artist goes through those feelings at some point, sometimes like over and over throughout their career. Like, why is this person getting this thing? And so there is like an element. I like that, like reprogramming or like reperceptioning. That's not a word, but you know what I mean? Like changing the perspective on, I just don't like that. And I don't understand why they're successful, to being like, why are they successful? And is that anything that I can add to what I'm doing? I like that. That's a good way to think about it.
And I think I've kind of always naturally been like that. Like in my life, I'm kind of the person to like soak everything in, be super overwhelmed, like almost, I've always had a lot of like empath issues, like taking on someone so much that I almost feel like them. Like I can't watch horror movies because I am that person. Like I take everything in. But that's a good thing, because then on top of that, I learned how to then filter. And it's like I only keep what's good and what resonates, and then everything else is garbage and I'll completely forget it and it's never existed ever, But once I learned to filter, it's like you can actually let yourself take everything in and trust that, you know what, I'm not going to let this taint me or frustrate me or bring me down or whatever, and I'm going to take just the good from it. When you can learn to do that, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm still learning that. For me, it's like there's so much information out there and I'm like a perfectionist. So I'm like, I have to do everything, every advice, everyone, like every piece of advice anyone ever gives me, I have to do that. And then like, it's just easy to burn out as an independent musician. Like you could always be working. You could literally always be working.
Because of the pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure that you put on yourself is deadly. I mean, for me, learning to let off the pressure is what actually got me moving.
Exactly.
Because I did the same thing. I have way too many things in my head, way too many expectations, and then I would just paralyze myself because like, I can't do all of that. It's so much,
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it's good in a motivational way in a sense. Like it can be the driver, but you have to be careful. It's tricky.
It is tricky. And I'm lucky to like be with a partner who is also ambitious, but in a very different way. He's much more of like focus on one thing at a time type of guy. And I'm more like, I need to do everything all at once. And so he kind of helps me remember that like, okay, like may want to do like 5 different things, and we can maybe do all those 5 different things, but like, let's start with one and then move on to the next one. And so we kind of balance each other in that way, to where like I bring new ideas to him that he wouldn't have thought of, or, whatever. And then he reminds me that like, let's,
no, that's
slow and
huge.
steady and like make sure we don't burn out and hate what we're doing.
Yep. No, that is so huge. That's one of the biggest things I think anybody could learn is like, what is your Achilles heel? And then what's your saving grace that's going to counteract that? And even if it's not another person, it's just like you realizing your patterns and finding a way to counteract it.
Yep.
Balance, unfortunately, is the key. As much as we hate it.
I know. My therapist recommended that I put Post-it notes all over my house that say, stop, breathe. And every time I see one, I have to stop what I'm doing and like take a couple of breaths, because I will just do the next thing and get myself into like a kind of this manic energy that then I can't like relax.
You sound very much like me.
Yeah. But that helped a ton, because it's just like, it's not like stop, meditate for 20 minutes. It's stop, take a couple breaths, and then you can continue and just see how, like, ask your body how your body feels right now.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that's led me to make a different choice, and sometimes it hasn't. And like, but knowing that like I'm paying more attention to myself, I think is like half the battle. It's just that like, our bodies are like, hey, listen to me. And then if you don't listen, it's like, hey, this is pain. And you're like, man.
And then even then still sometimes you won't listen to it. And it does take a Scott or a Post-it note that says breathe to get you to go, oh, wait, okay, I'm still here. Because it sounds, you and I sound really similar in energy, because we'll just power through anything to get the mission done. Like whatever it is, even if it's just doing a whole bunch of chores throughout the day, like, you sound very driven, and it can drive you crazy.
And I like checking things off my to-do list.
Yeah. Okay, so you're a lister too. I'm such a lister. I love lists.
Lists of everything. I made a bullet journal this year, so I could like specifically create my planner how I wanted it. And it's been helpful. I'm probably more organized than I've ever been, but it's also like some days it's like I'm just crossing things off the list because it makes me feel good, but they're not like the most important thing that I should be doing.
Prioritizing is the next
so
step.
I'm still learning all of that too.
What's the difference between a bullet journal and a to-do list?
So a bullet journal is actually like basically a self-made planner. So like instead of like buying a planner at the store that has all the days and stuff, you basically make it. But because you're making it, like I'll add like a books I want to read list, and I'll add like venues I want to contact. And like you kind of have this system of like, all the bullets are like things you want to try or things you need to do that day or whatever. And then when you cross them out, that means you've finished it. Or, if you've put an X through the bullet, you finished it. If you cross it out, you decided not to do it. So it's kind of this system. There's a book about it, but it's basically the system of creating your own planner that has all the elements that you would want in a planner. Because I could never find like a planner that had everything I wanted. And I just wanted all of my stuff in one place.
Yeah.
So I have like an exercise log in there. I have like a habit tracker. I have, just like my weekly schedule, my monthly schedule, my yearly schedule to like remember things that are like coming up further out. Kind of like my big goals and priorities, and then all the things that I need to do to accomplish those. And so it's a lot of work to set up, but once you have it going, it's like it's really nice.
Because there's like a table of contents and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
you like
You just
refer by knowing what page to go to basically for
exactly
whatever thing. No, because
Yeah.
I mean, life is very complicated, and having something like that is maybe a little bit more complicated to make, but like actually puts down all the pockets of your life. I can see that being very helpful. And I think I kind of do that in my own way because I have certain, I use OneNote. Have you heard of OneNote?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the best one that I have found because you can put folders within folders with documents within those things. And I can really separate out and have like longer term things and then like my daily list that I make.
Nice. That's awesome.
Because you need both. You need both because some things aren't instant. And for me, if I put that on my daily list, then I start feeling pressure when like 5, 7, 8 days have gone by and that thing is still on my list. And I'm like mad at myself about it. Well, that should have been on the long-term list, not the do it today list, And
Totally.
you start beating yourself up. So that's cool. I might have to look into that. I might have to make one of those.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because then you can separate it out into like, so I'll have my my monthly schedule and my monthly to-dos or projects that I'm working on. And then I can always revert back to that monthly list and then decide each week what goes from the monthly on to the weekly and then what goes from the weekly onto the daily. And so I highly recommend the book. The way that I don't do all the things that he says to do, but the way that he like explains it all, like he really just like explains exactly how to set it up. And you can there's like lots of people on YouTube that are doing it their own way that explain, different ways of doing things. But
what's the book called? The Bullet Journal?
I think it's called The Bullet Journal Method.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I want to say the author's name was like Ryder Carroll or something like that.
Guy wrote it. Interesting.
Yeah. I thought I was reading a book that a woman wrote the whole time and it was a man.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. It was like to save him because he was like really ADD and like could not stay organized. And like this was the only way he was able to like
very cool
stay organized and stay on top of it. So
yeah. See, I ran across YouTubes before I heard that. I didn't know that there was a book. Everybody was just doing these bullet journal, look inside my bullet journal videos. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, but everybody seems to have a theory with it. So it's from a book a guy made.
Yeah.
Because he was ADHD. That's cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And especially like, it's better to read the book, I think, because you go on YouTube and the people that are doing stuff on YouTube are like amazing artists. And they're like, look at this beautiful bullet journal I made. I'm like, mine doesn't look like that.
And yours is chicken scratch and you're like, oh man.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm never going to be able to like make what you just made. So
yeah, no, I'm terrible with writing with a pen or a pencil for some reason, but I got an iPad recently for a tour actually. And I ended up spending the extra $99 for the pencil, the iPencil or whatever it's called. And I love writing with that thing. Like I can actually get like smooth lines and like kind of make it pretty and erase it easily. Like if I need to make something cute, but I'm definitely not the best penmanship, but that's made it a little better. I could make a bullet journal in my iPad, right?
There you go. Yeah, that would absolutely work.
It doesn't have to be physical.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as you can like archive it, because he kind of says that he uses it, he keeps all of his, and then he can go back and like know what he was doing or what he was thinking or what he was working on at any time.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Do you journal as well in that, or is this mostly just like prioritizing tasks type thing?
Yeah, it's mostly that. I have like a separate journal that I write in because it's just, I take the bullet journal everywhere because it's got my schedule in it. And like when I journal, I want it to be a little more private. Like I don't want it to just be like in my bag. So
yeah. See, that's why the iPad worked for me too. It has to take my thumbprint for my journal folder.
That is really smart.
I'm sure someone could hack it, but if they really wanted to.
If they really wanted to. And someone could definitely find my journal, but
yeah. It's in my sock
It's hard to read anyway, so.
Okay, so I feel like I could talk to you forever.
I know. I cannot believe an hour and a half pretty much has gone by.
know. I think this is the longest episode I've done, but I feel like I still have so many things I don't know about you. But for the Boss Potters listening, how can we support you? Where can we find you on social media? Tell us all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my main band is Fox+Bones, and we're at Fox+Bones pretty much everywhere. We have Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Our music is streaming on YouTube and Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much all of the places you'll find us no matter what. So if you just search Fox and Bones, and then my side project, my rock band is called Sarah Wild and the Watch, and we're on Instagram at I am Sarah Wild. That's WILD, just spelled normally. And then Sarah Wild and the Watch on Facebook. So we haven't been quite as active, but if you're into like superhero culture and like hard rock music, definitely check that out. And yeah, just, following us, sharing our videos, interacting with us. That's like the best way to support right now. Because we're just wanting to connect with people who are interested in the kind of music we put out. And so, yeah, we hope to see you guys on our social media.
And I just have to give you a little bit of my version of promo, just by telling the story of my favorite song that you guys have out. It's called Already There.
Yeah.
And you played it live in Seattle at the So Far show that we met. And, in a live show, you can't hear all the lyrics. There's people and, you don't catch everything. But I caught quite a lot of it. And I was like... This is amazing. Just as a musician, I can relate to it so much. And the whole song is about basically the industry and that you gotta freaking love this to death. Or you're screwed, honey, because it ain't fun. It's hard. And you talk about, playing to an empty room. And I love all of it. And then even when you gain success, you have to basically reconcile with, yourself, from the past, the future, and like what all of that means now that you have quote unquote made it. I just loved everything about that song, lyrically and the vibe. It's a more rock and roll-y, fun song. It's got some grit to it. And your vocals are amazing. You're doing some high, crazy stuff. And I don't know. Do you usually do that one as a closer? I feel like you guys must.
That started to be the closer. We actually released that as a single at the end of February, right before the tour that wasn't. So we left on tour at the end of February and then came home 3 weeks later because of COVID. So that was the first time we'd ever played it live with the full band, but we have played it quite a bit since, and it does feel like a closer song. And we actually did release a music video to that kind of follows like us and our journey.
I actually haven't watched it. Oh my God, I'm so excited to watch it now. No, I discovered it on Spotify because when I heard you guys play it, the first thing I did was go on Spotify and look for the song. So awesome. Can I kind of ask you why you guys decided to write it? Did you? Yeah. I just want to hear a little bit about it because I love it so much.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of my favorites that we've done recently. And the idea for it started like over a year ago. I remember we were playing this show in Livingston, Montana, and it was this cool place that you could stay on the property in shipping containers that have been turned into like Airbnbs. And so, we just kind of had it was a vacation night of tour, and Scott started writing this blues riff that was really awesome. And I really, really, really loved it, but we weren't quite sure what we wanted the song to be about. And then he started the night before we had played a show somewhere else in Montana where there's a ton of people there and we're getting paid really well to be there. But the guy kept telling us to turn down. And first of all, we're a very quiet band when it's just the two of us. Second of all, we are playing through one Fender acoustic amp. So our vocals and guitars all going through one amp. There's one speaker in the whole place. This place is a giant warehouse. And he kept telling us to turn it down. And we were like, if we turn down anymore, you can't hear it. You're not going to be able to hear it. So we eventually just turned it down and no one could hear us. And and we just took our money and ran.
Yeah.
And so that had happened the night before. And I think that kind of sparked something in here, which that is one of the lyrics. But we kind of decided to break it up and just kind of go back and think about stories from early touring and put that we structured it so that the first verse was like first starting out, things are barely working. And then the second verse is kind of like, okay, you're starting to sell tickets. One night you'll have an amazing show. The next night you'll be told to turn down, And then it kind of ends with, that was the manifesting part, right? The end where we started talking about like things we wanted to experience. And so, so it was fun to write because it was really real.
You have so much experience in it.
Yeah. And then when we recorded it in the studio, our studio musicians, who are all longtime musicians, they heard it for the first time. They were like, "This is awesome." And they were like, "Ooh, that really hits home."
Yeah,
this is hard to listen to, but it's really good. Like, that's too real.
It should be every musician's anthem. And I was sad. I thought for sure it was going to be your top played. It's your third, it's still up there. You got the cover second, but
it's the newest, which is probably why too.
Okay. But I mean, every musician can relate to that so hard and almost punch me in the gut way. 'Cause it's so like, true. Oh, and yep. I mean, you really do have to love it. And with everything that you've experienced in your own personal realm of what that looks like, is it worth it?
I think so. I think so because I never really fit into like the corporate model of, consumerism and stuff. I tried. I definitely gave it a good college try. And I just always was looking out the window, feeling like I was supposed to be doing something else and feeling like my life was supposed to be more interesting. And I don't always have money for stuff. And I'm often living with my parents and, just making ends meet in whatever way I can. But I feel like I'm going to look back on my life and be like, I'm so glad I did that because my life was interesting and it was filled with connections and it was filled with culture and I got to meet different people and I got to do what I loved every night, even though I didn't always love it every night. And I just think that, even though there's been moments where I've been in absolute tears for this reason or that, or because I can't pay this bill or because someone didn't like what I was doing, but all those tears are like even still better than the best day at a corporate job.
Because there is no best day at a corporate job for our types. Nope.
It's like the best day at my corporate job was the time that they let us drink in the office for happy hour. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's not good.
See, you'll never look back at that and be excited about it. Like what you're saying, when you're thinking of yourself growing old and looking back at your life, that's the mindset that people don't necessarily think about taking. But Gary Vee talks about it a lot. And I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's great. He talks about regret. And it's if it really comes down to it, feel your mortality for a moment. And being an old person or not old, because not everybody gets to live old. There's disease and car crashes. And, you never know when your last breath is. When that all does flash in front of your eyes, what are you even if it happened today, what do you look back on? And you don't want to regret it because when this is such a part of you and this is who you are, if you deny that, that's where the regret will happen.
Yep. And that can cause all sorts of problems.
And it's not about money. And a lot of people talk about that too. A lot of people who do make a lot of money and are successful in this or aren't, but are just in it, they say it's not about money and it sounds like a cliche thing, but it's true because that's just to us. That's something that on our deathbed, we're not going to look back and value. We're going to rather value following what our guts told us to do. So props to you, girl. I love that you write about it. And I'm so happy that, you're a lifer and we want to support you any way that we can. So I'll definitely leave all your socials down below and everything. And I appreciate you spending the time to talk to me today.
This was so wonderful. It was really fun getting to know you. And I hope this is the beginning of a blossoming friendship.
Blossoming friendship, darling.
Yes. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.